Hey and welcome to the Daily Arsenal News Show. Let's begin with our daily news. Future of special 23-year-old Arsenal ace, one to watch, two clubs are keen. The future of Arsenal midfielder Albert Sambi Lokonga has been in doubt for a while, and now journalist Sacha Tavolieiri has provided an update on the player. Arsenal started the Premier League season off as expected with a win. Lokonga didn't even make the bench for the match, and this shows that Mikel Arteta doesn't see the player in their plans. Tavolieiri reported on the future of the Arsenal midfielder. He said, "Been told Sambi Lokonga's side meeting with Burnley about personal terms didn't meet expectations and that it's now more complicated than expected. Also, the reason why it's been so quiet since the 2nd of August. Monaco, who was on the player even before his transfer to Arsenal, still got an interest for the Belgian midfielder and took information recently, but nothing concrete so far. To be continued towards the end of the window. The Belgian midfielder is only 23-year-old, so he still has time to reach the potential that saw Arsenal sign him in the first place. The only way that Lokonga can do this is if he is playing top football consistently. The news from the journalist suggests that he is struggling to find a move away, but his future is one to watch. Burnley or Monaco would both be a great move for the Arsenal player. He would definitely be a starting player and would still be playing to a high level. If he were to join Burnley, the special talent would be able to showcase to Arsenal that he could manage to play to a high level in England. He definitely has a high ceiling, but with Arsenal trying to push for the title nowadays, it's very hard for players to break into the first team. They have made more signings, including two midfielders, and this has pushed Lokonga further down the pecking order at the club. Pundit says Arsenal player is really incredible and is actually getting better and better. Shaka Hislop has heaped praise on Bukayo Saka after Arsenal opened their Premier League campaign with a narrow victory over Nottingham Forest at the Emirates on Saturday. Hislop was speaking on ESPN as Mikel Arteta's man secured the 3 points with a largely comfortable performance against Steve Cooper's side. Forest made the game a lot more tense than it needed to be at the end, but Arsenal played their part after failing to really take full advantage of their dominance and put the contest to bed. Thankfully for the Gunners, there were a couple of moments of outrageous quality. Gabriel Martinelli produced an incredible turn to set up Edin Ketia for the opener, and Bukayo Saka scored what proved to be the winner with a stunning strike. He cut inside from the right and curved the ball into the top corner with his left foot. Matt Turner had no hope of keeping the ball out of the net. It was a moment which suggested that the 21-year-old is ready to pick up where he left off last season. In fact, Hislop believes that he has the talent to eclipse the remarkable numbers he managed last year. He said, "Incredible, really is. When he picks that ball up out on the right-hand side and he has options ahead of him, I think it's Partey who runs by him and almost uses him as a little bit of a decoy and drops inside, and once he does, you can't speak highly enough of the finish, but he hits it with absolutely no backlift, which gives Turner absolutely no chance. He is doing this without even thinking about it. It really is a special finish from a special player, as good as he was last season. I know we are only a game in, but he just seems to be growing in confidence and maturity and growing in talent. It's scary to think that Saka is only 21. He has been directly involved in 59 goals in 136 Premier League games during his career, and he has obviously already opened his account for the new campaign. He just seems to be getting better and better." Mika Richards issues verdict on Thomas Partey in Arsenal win over Nottingham Forest. Mika Richards has suggested that he is not convinced that Thomas Partey is the right man to play at right back for Arsenal, as the Gunners toiled to a 2-1 opening day win over Nottingham Forest. Richards was speaking on Match of the Day after Mikel Arteta's men secured 3 points in their first game of the campaign. Goals from Eden Ketia and Bukayo Saka settled the contest for last year's Premier League runners-up. Arteta did spring a surprise ahead of the contest, with Thomas Partey starting at right back. Meanwhile, Ben White moved into the middle and Yurian Timber was on the left. Arsenal were mostly in control for the large majority of the contest, but it was hardly exhilarating football from the Gunners, with Forest simply looking to hurt them on the counter. Thankfully for Arsenal, Gabriel Martinelli and Saka were able to see Arsenal across the line with moment of magic. But Arteta has arguably been left with plenty to ponder, particularly with Forest having some real joy down the Gunners' right flank as they looked to snatch a point at the end. Richard suggested that Partey played well in many respects. However, he is not convinced that he is the answer if Arsenal are going to play with an inverted fullback on the right. He said, "For me, it just didn't work how they wanted. 16 touches in the first 13 minutes on the right, but for the rest of the game, he is in midfield. And one concern I do have is defensively. If you are going to play in that position, you are going to get isolated in these areas, 1 versus 1. And has he got the capability to deal with that situation? We know that in midfield, but against better teams, they are going to get punished on the ball. Partey was fantastic, but in terms of the fluidity of the team, I am not sure it worked." Mikel Arteta says raves about 22-year-old Arsenal player after Forest win. Arsenal boss Mikel Arteta admitted that he was really disappointed with Gabriel Martinelli in the game against Monaco almost 2 weeks ago, but he was really impressed with him. Gabriel Martinelli looked like a man on a mission for Arsenal yesterday. The Brazilian didn't see too much of the ball in the very early stages of the game, but every time the Gunners moved their possession to the left side of the pitch, he looked sharp. Martinelli looked extremely hungry every time he was on or near the ball. His incredible run and outrageous bit of skill took two Forest defenders out of the game, and that led to Nketiah's opener. The 22-year-old continued to work tirelessly and was one of the best players on the pitch. It was a very different performance compared to the one against Monaco a couple of weeks ago, and Mikel Arteta made it a point to mention that in his press conference after the win. When asked about Martinelli, he said, as quoted by Football London, "I saw today that I really liked and I didn't like so much when we played Monaco 2 weeks ago. It was when he gave the ball away, how he tracked back. This is the defining moment because when Gabi is doing that backwards then forwards, he is one of the best players and one of the most dangerous. When he plays a different rhythm, no. Martinelli has to be at his best to keep his place in this Arsenal side. Leandro Trossard had an incredible preseason, scored the all-important goal in the Community Shield, and looked fantastic when he came on for the Brazilian. We think Martinelli has done enough to keep his place, but if he has an underwhelming performance like the one against Monaco, Arteta will likely drop him. Arsenal take on Crystal Palace next, and it will be interesting to see how Martinelli will fare. Pundit reacts to Kai Havertz's display in Arsenal win against Nottingham Forest. Shaka Hislop has criticized Kai Havertz after Arsenal beat Nottingham Forest on the opening day of the campaign, insisting that he could not recall anything of note the forward did at the Emirates. Hislop was speaking to ESPN after the Germany international made his Premier League debut for the Gunners, as Mikel Arteta's men started the league season with a victory. Kai Havertz showed some bright moments in the Community Shield, but he moved back into more of a midfield role against Steve Cooper's side, and it seems that he did not manage to impress everyone. Havertz did not manage to make too much of an impact on the game. Everything was very congested around the Nottingham Forest penalty area, so it required moment of magic from the likes of Gabriel Martinelli and Bukayo Saka to help settle the contest. Obviously, it's much too soon to suggest that Havertz is going to be a disappointing signing for Arsenal, but clearly Hislop has serious concerns about how Arteta is going to be able to get the best out of him. He said, as anticipated, I'm really not sure what Kai Havertz offer Arsenal in all honesty, and he stuck with him for the entire game. I can't think of a single thing that Kai Havertz did of note, never mind making Arsenal better, nothing you can talk about. If I am Arteta, I'm trying to figure out what to do with Havertz because it didn't make sense to me. It always seemed absolutely imperative that Havertz got off to a fast start at Arsenal. He never reached expectations at Chelsea, and while that was not all down to him, he obviously has the talent to carry a team on his shoulders. It would have surprised many when Arsenal made a move for him, so he is definitely under serious pressure to prove a point, and the fact that he is attracting criticism so early on in his Gunners career highlights the task facing him. How Arsenal talent Charlie Patino fared on his debut for Swansea. Arsenal talent Charlie Patino left the Emirates Stadium this week for a season-long loan with Swansea. The Gunners' talent is one of the best youngsters to come through the ranks at high end in recent years. Last term, Patino went to Blackpool and, despite going down, he enjoyed a fruitful stint with the Tangerines. The Arsenal gem have a good account of himself, registering 7 goal contributions in all competitions. Now, Patino has made his debut with the Swansea, and Gunners fans will be delighted to know he did very well. The Arsenal talent came on the 61st minute of their championship trip to West Brom. At the time, Patino's side was 3-0 down, but 13 minutes later, he provided an assist for Harry Darling to make it 3-1. Swansea went on to grab a second in the 80th minute, giving the host an almighty scare. Also, the home side held on for a 3-2 win. Patino's cameo off the bench was one of the big positives. On Twitter, he was described as an absolute gem and a potential difference maker. Patino's overall stats were truly impressive too. Arsenal Loan Watch wrote about this post match. He had an 82% pass accuracy, created 4 chances, and made 5 passes into the final third. Patino also contributed defensively. He weighed in with 1 block and made 3 recoveries. All in all, an incredibly promising start from the teenager. It shouldn't be long before he becomes a regular starter. Arsenal fans will no doubt be keeping tabs on Patino and Swansea this season. If all goes well, he could well stake a claim for the Gunners' first team in a 24-25 season. Arsenal plotting approach for top-class Liverpool midfield target. Arsenal and Liverpool have both been linked with Italy international midfielder Nicolo Barella in recent months. Back in June, FC Internews claimed that Gunners were expected to make a very important bid for the player. Meanwhile, Fabrizio Romano said in the same month that Liverpool were big fans of Barella. He said, "On Barella, I would also keep an eye on Liverpool. Because Liverpool have always been following the player, Jurgen Klopp has always been a big fan of Barella. Now, a new report has emerged claiming Arsenal are stating to weigh up a new approach for the Anfield target. According to FT, the Gunners have received indications that the Italian would be open to a move. Arsenal usually never initiate talks with a club over a player unless there is a general sense that they are willing to join," added the report. Apparently, there are still question marks over Thomas Partey's future at the Emirates Stadium. If the 30-year-old was to leave, Arsenal will reportedly opt for a market signing as a replacement. However, Barella wouldn't come cheap. They claim he'd cost more than Sandro Tonali, who joined Newcastle for a reported £55 million. As for Liverpool, they are currently in pursuit of Moses Caicedo and Romeo Lavia, battling against Chelsea for their services. It will be interesting to see whether Arsenal or Liverpool do make a push for Barella over the coming weeks. The transfer window closes in 3 weeks' time, and depending on outgoings, there could be light pushes for players. Arsenal seem alright for now, but if Partey's future still is uncertain, they have to be mindful or bringing in an equally talented replacement. As for Liverpool, we all know they are looking for midfield reinforcement after Jordan Henderson and Fabinho left Anfield. I will be uploading daily Arsenal news, so keep your eyes on the channel and don't forget to like and subscribe. I appreciate your support. Peace out.